This week's episode is WrestleSmack. I'm going to be speaking about my Mount Rushmore and my top 5 wrestlers from 5 to 1. And I will also be talking about my favourite wrestler moments, top 5 for that too. So let's kick this episode off by naming my top 5 wrestlers from 5 to 1. And which 4 of those guys made it onto my Mount Rushmore. Okay, so starting at number 5, guys, is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Some of you guys may disagree with this. However, there are 4 guys I placed in front of him, and I will explain my reasons very shortly. But yeah, starting with Stone Cold Steve Austin, he started in Texas, late 80s. He had a couple of runs with the Von Erichs. I'm not sure if he ruffled feathers with Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, who I will be talking about very shortly. But yeah, he had a run there, early career, Texas, late 80s. Fast forward WCW, he was, tagged along with Brian Pillman, early 90s. He was only tag team material in that territory, so yeah, but his run come to an end after a few years. So mid-90s, WCW let him go. I believe he was injured, and during that injury process, Paul Heyman took advantage, and he knew he was a free agent, so he brought him into ECW. I'm not sure if he was there for maybe a few months, and he was mocking Hulk Hogan's gimmick. I'm sure many of you wrestling fans know this. You've seen it online. But yeah, caught the attention of WWF, Vince McMahon, and Bret Hart, also another admirer, brought him in. And yeah, I think Bret Hart had a run with him at WrestleMania 13, 1997, after 1 year, him coming into the WWF at that time. And I truly believe to this day, that was the beginning of the Attitude Era. That WrestleMania 13, battle was epic. It was a submission match. Bret Hart submitted Stone Cold Steve Austin. There was color in that match. There was like a lot of blood. So that was one of his iconic matches. Another iconic match was WrestleMania 17, the heel turn with Vince McMahon. And also, they both signed a deal with the devil. But, when it comes to WrestleMania moments, that's got to be up there. So, yeah, top 2 moments for Stone Cold Steve Austin. WrestleMania 13 against Bret Hart. WrestleMania 17 against The Rock. And they're the only 2, highlighted matches I could say stand out for Stone Cold Steve Austin in his career with WWE. But, man, what a hell of a run he had. But it was because of his attitude that he brought in, and the Attitude Era. They were competing against WCW, the Monday Night Wars. So, he's my number 5, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Coming in at number 4, the dead man, The Undertaker. And where is he? There he is. And that's Stone Cold Steve Austin there. And that's the Hulk. Yeah, so I have met a few guys. But yeah, going back to The Undertaker, guys, he's number 4. Highlighted matches I've written down is him beating the Hulkster, Survivor Series 91, winning his first WWF title. He held it for like maybe a month or so until Hogan won it back this Tuesday in Texas, beginning of 92 January. But yeah, winning your first WWF title, you never forget it. And I'm sure that stands out in Mark Calloway's mind. Another highlighted match for the dead man was his win against HBK, WrestleMania 25. That was a great epic. And they both put their bodies on the line. There was moonsaults from HBK. The Undertaker tossed his body over the top rope. And it's just the match that stands the test of time. So yeah. 2 iconic matches that I've just mentioned. The first against Hogan, winning his WF title. The second beating HBK, which I consider his greatest match of all time. And the third iconic match he had was the streak ending at WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans. Who could ever forget that, guys? I could hear a pin drop that night. I was there to watch it live. 21-1. It was flashing around the Superdome. And I was crushed. It never fully processed until I got back to my hotel 2 hours later after I had a couple of beers. But I woke up the next morning and realised there's no more streak. And that was the one thing I always looked forward to. You got your WWF title match. Well, WWE title match, sorry. You had the streak match. And then you had your tag team titles match. And maybe the Divas match too. But once they took that away, I just felt like part of the WrestleMania dream was over. But yeah, he's number 4, The Undertaker. Number 3, The Rock. What can you say about The Rock? His, ability to reinvent himself. If he's a face coming into a match, people or fans boo him. He has the gears to switch to heel. You just look at his match against Hogan, WrestleMania 18. He was able to adapt. He did it pretty good. He was whipping Hogan with a belt. It was back and forth when Hogan started using the belt. But when he was victorious, I think he won the fans over. And I think, he showed the fans what he could do following a general like Hulk Hogan. So, yeah, that was one iconic match he had. Another iconic match he had was against Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 17. As I just mentioned with Steve Austin, they both... put on a show that will never be forgotten. Obviously, Vince McMahon, Steve Austin, they signed the deal with the devil. They screwed him over. The Rock got screwed over. Although he lost that match, it's one of those greatest matches you look back on and think, wow, what colour they brought to that match. Because there was blood. Like Austin was bloodied. The Rock was bloodied. But they both put their bodies on the line, and The Rock took quite a few chair shots at the end. Especially from Steve Austin. Steve Austin could have killed him that night. But yeah, guys, with The Rock, what can you say? There's 2 defining fights, but then he was gone for 10 years. And he came back after 10 years, and who was there? John Cena. So from his iconic match with the Hulkster, it was 10 years in the making since WrestleMania 18. Fast forward to WrestleMania 28. This was in Miami, The Rock's hometown. There was no way The Rock was going to lose. So yeah, The Rock come out on top. And I will never forget it because that was my first ever WrestleMania holiday. I was there to watch it in Miami. And to see John Cena flat on his ass, watching over as The Rock on top of the apron with his hand raised high, celebrating, is a memory that will never go away. One of the best experiences I've ever witnessed in my life. But yeah, so fast forward now to number 2, Andre the Giant. Come on, guys. There was no bigger attraction than him. Only the one iconic match that stands out for me with him is WrestleMania 3, him against Hulk Hogan. There is no bigger, and there is no badder, and there is no better. I think that WrestleMania 3 match is up there with the top 3 best ever. Like Rock Hogan. You could even stick Randy Savage, Steamboat in that top 3 too, because that WrestleMania 3 card was amazing. But yeah, going back to number 2, Andre, I just believe he was bigger and larger than life. So he takes the number 2 spot. Number 1, you guessed it. It's the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan. Where do I start with Hogan? He started in Georgia wrestling, late 70s. He moved over to the NWA. He competed against Nick Bockwinkel. He got screwed over for the heavyweight title, the NWA title at that time. He caught the attention also in the early part of his career. Vince McMahon, I think he had a run with WWF at that time. Vincent McMahon Sr. And I think Vincent McMahon Sr., he gave him an ultimatum. He said, if you film Rocky 3, you're fired. Or you can stay here working. Hogan chose to film Rocky 3, Thunder Lips. And from that moment onwards, it skyrocketed Hogan's career. So yeah, Hulk Hogan's number one on my Mount Rushmore, and he's also my number one wrestler of all time. So yeah, guys, to sum it up, my four guys on the Mount Rushmore are The Undertaker, The Rock, Andre the Giant, and the Hulkster. I don't think there's room for anybody else, guys. I think Steve Austin just got pushed off that ledge, only by a whisker, but it was very close between him, The Undertaker, and The Rock. But The Undertaker, for his longevity in the business, for what The Rock has done, reinventing himself and doing the Hollywood movie stuff, is incredible. So yeah, those four guys belong on the Mount Rushmore. But yeah, switching over now to my favourite wrestling moments of all time. Okay, so number 5, I would have to say Hogan turning heel. That would have to be the biggest shock I've ever seen in the history of wrestling. I never seen it come in. Hogan was a heel in his early days, Georgia days, when he was, battling Jerry the King Lawler. As many of you diehard fans know, he was a heel in the WWF against Bob Backlund in the early days for Vincent McMahon Jr.'s father. But yeah, fast forward, guys, then, past the Rocky stuff, Hogan was the good guy all the way up until 1996. So for, I would say, a good decade, he was the superhero. Say your prayers, take your vitamins, and, keep going. But when it was all said and done, he was like a role model to the kids. So fast forward 1996, Bash at the Beach, Hall and Nash come in. Before the NWO was formed, he's walking down the ring. I remember it clear as day, because I was watching it the following week, highlights in the UK, and everybody was saying Hogan turned heel, and I couldn't believe it until I seen it with my own eyes. And there he was, he leg dropped the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah! And there was nothing the Macho Man could do about it. He got back up, and he stuck his thumbs up. These guys are now part of the NWO, Hall, Nash. And I remember the garbage being thrown into the ring that day. And the best quote, one of the best quotes Hogan ever come out with from his mouth was, "The crap in this ring represents the fans, and all of you can stick it." And that tore my heart into pieces, man. That broke my heart. I thought Hulk Hogan's just turned on his fans, and he's turned on me. But then as I started watching the NWO stuff, I turned into a bad guy. So he was very good at reinventing himself. The Rock probably took a leaf out of his book, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that's my number 5 moment. My favourite wrestling moments of all time. Hogan turning heel, Bash at the Beach, 96. Number 4, I would have to say, was watching the Survivor Series, 1990. That's how I got hooked. The Hulkamaniacs against the Natural Disasters. You had the Boss Man, you had the Tugboat, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the Hulkster. Well, you remember who was on the Natural Disasters side. Haku, Earthquake, Dino Bravo, and so on. But yeah, man, I'll never forget that. I was hooked. I seen the colourful wrestlers to win the ring. Hogan with the red and yellow, Hacksaw with the 2x4, the Tugboat, whoo, can't do it good. And the Big Boss Man, he held the nightstick. I was just in awe. I thought these guys are like superheroes. So you didn't need to buy a comic book. You could just watch the real thing on TV. So yeah, man, they don't do wrestling like they did then. So back then, it was the best. If you was a kid back in my era, early 90s. But yeah, that's number 4. Number 3, I would have to say, being in the Superdome watching WrestleMania 30 live, guys. That was a surreal experience. And all I can say was, you could hear a pin drop that night. The streak, was over. Brock Lesnar, defeated the dead man. I never seen it coming, but that's what wrestling is all about. It's unpredictable. You don't see it coming, and when it does happen, it's a new chapter. So yeah, the streak was over. But another moment that night was being witness to see Hulk Hogan, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin in that ring. It will never happen again. You'll never see a moment like that. That's something that comes out once in a blue moon. So I was very fortunate and lucky enough to be there for WrestleMania 30. Yeah, so that's number 3, guys. Number 2, I would have to say, was Miami, WrestleMania 28. when I watched that live with my brother. Yeah, we booked that holiday 1 year in advance. John Cena was running The Rock down. The Rock, you know, kept saying to John Cena, be careful for what you wish for. And what happened? He come back for WrestleMania 27. They booked the match 1 year in advance. Me and my brother, we booked that ticket straight away. We were getting the best tickets. And I'm not sure if you've seen one of my preview videos for this episode. The Rock, his entrance, that was live. I actually recorded that live on my phone in Miami. So that was an absolute one-off surreal experience I will never forget. And the Miami beach was beautiful. So that was probably my top 3 best holidays ever. But my best wrestling experience well, it's going to be number 2, I'd say. It's not my best ever wrestling experience, but it's one of them. But I'll be moving on to number 1 now. So yeah, that's number 2, Miami, WrestleMania 28, watching that live and getting to witness The Rock defeat John Cena, who is the most overhyped wrestler I've ever seen, if I'm being honest. I'm not really a fan of John Cena, and I know there will be a lot of people knocking me for saying that. But he does a lot for kids, so I'll give him his dues for that. Right, guys, we have now reached number 1. So, Hogan v. Rock, WrestleMania 18. I don't think there's no bigger, there's no better. This was the showcase of the Immortals. It was Hogan v. Rock, icon versus legend. And with The Rock, the icon, Hogan the legend, there was only going to be one winner because Vince McMahon was looking at, the bigger picture. Hogan was limited at that time. He was touching 50. But Hogan could still go. He could still run. You look at how he was keeping up with The Rock. I think he done himself justice. And some of the bumps The Rock took for Hogan in respect, due to Hogan, having a good relationship with his father, Rocky Johnson. And they actually trained a few months before the match. So I think Hogan went down to, I'm not sure if it was Miami, and Rocky Johnson was outside the ring, and Rocky Johnson was shouting into the ring, listen to Hogan, Rock. And you can watch this on YouTube. They both commented on this. And I think The Rock always respected Hogan. He was always a Hulkamaniac. So for him to have that match with Hogan was a dream come true for him. So I honestly believe where Austin missed that chance, The Rock took advantage of it. And yes, just the build up, to the match, the NWO coming in, demolishing Austin, nearly killing The Rock with the truck. If you could remember that, guys, outside the arena. I thought The Rock was dead. I thought they crushed him. I think Hogan was going like 150, miles per hour towards The Rock. And I didn't think The Rock was going to come back from that, but he did. The Rock bottom, 1, 2, 3, good night Vienna. The Rock proved he was the greatest of all time. And that's what that match was all about. Who is the greatest of all time? But in my heart, my mind, Hulk Hogan will always be number 1. The Rock's in the top 3, as I mentioned, but there's only one Hulk Hogan. So guys, thank you for watching that. That was my Mount Rushmore and also my top wrestling moments that I've experienced in my life. So that being said, I'm going to leave you now with my live experiences which I've personally gone through, meeting the Hulkster and being at WrestleMania live. So take a look at these clips, guys. Hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching my episode. It's just aim it towards the screen.
You on next, yeah?
Yeah, nice and fat. I got it on record. I just kind of aim it. That's all.
Thank you. Wow, he's back, Jack. Brother, get in here, man. Get in here. Yeah, he's back.
1, 2, 3.
There you go.
That's toast.
What do you got?
Taking it off. Well, no wrestling match.
Maybe you're gonna have one. I'm not having one. Sweet. There you go.
1 minute, 1 minute. There we go. 1, 2, 3.
Bang. Got you, brother. Good to see you, man. I was worried about you. I didn't know if you'd show up.
I'm at WrestleMania, and it's about to start. Check this out. I'm in Orlando. Get ready. Get ready. It's WrestleMania, baby. Cena sucks. Cena sucks. Cena sucks. Cena sucks. Cena sucks. Cena sucks. Woo! Red Bull. There it is. WrestleMania, baby!